The search for a new life by moving to the United States is one of the most enduring stories from generations of immigrants, from European immigrants leaving their homeland for a better life in America, to Jewish immigrants escaping persecution from German Nazis. Fast forward a couple decades, immigrants from all over the world have made their marks on history through their daring journeys. But most importantly, why are thousands of immigrants who had risked everything to come here are suddenly packing up their bags and leaving? My mother brought us to the US when I was just 7 years old, and we lived in Los Angeles for 20 years before I decided to leave the United States 15 years ago to come to Taiwan. Growing up, I had seen the difficulties of a single parent household, my mom having 2 jobs just to make ends meet. And at the age of 14, I started to work under the table doing cash jobs, like cleaning bakeries, florist shops, and even selling cell phones just to help my mom out so she can raise us, her 3 children. I just want a house that's fully paid off. I once told my estranged father on his yearly 5-day visit to see us, as we drove back to our house in a Hispanic neighborhood, full of apartments with graffitis when we passed by some alleyways just off the main road. "That's immature," he would tell me. "When you're older, you'll want more than that. Trust me." But in my mind that time, I only wanted the pain to stop. The pain of seeing my mother slave for payments for the house that she barely scraped enough money to buy, so that we can finally stop moving every 3 years because our contracts would be up and the landlord is planning to kick us out or raise the rent above what we can afford. The pain of waking up early every Saturday and Sunday morning so we can drive around the rich neighborhoods for yard sales and garage sales. A list she compiled during the week driving around before coming home. We would arrive earlier than everyone, and we would get the first picks of the good stuff. "I don't want to be a slave to the banks," I replied, and we drove the last few streets in silence, because I think he knew I was right. We were slaves to the system, to our debts, to our lifestyle, and to the decision of immigrating here. After coming back to Taiwan for various reasons, but mainly because there was no job opportunities for me in the US, as I graduated with a bachelor's degree in anthropology, I would come back to Taiwan to hope to chase after my dreams of becoming a pilot. Unfortunately, at the beginning, this plan didn't work out, but I still needed to find a job and send money back home to California. Initially, I was teaching English and making an average salary in Taiwan. But after a couple months, for the first time in my life, I was starting to save money. This had never happened before. How could I make less in Taiwan but save more than I did when I made more money in the US? The answer was simple: cost of living. It's not about how much you make, it's about how much you save. Having savings really opens up the options in terms of wealth generation, investing, buying a house, and even planning for early retirement. Recently, I've talked to some friends and relatives. One friend was a trash collector in New York City, and his wife works as a product design manager in a design firm. Between the two, they make about 20,000 US dollars a month. That's a lot of money. However, he tells me he's still living paycheck to paycheck, and they have trouble saving even a little bit of money. I understood exactly what he meant. I've had friends who tell me that they now cook at home more often, buy used products. Stores like Marshalls and TJ Maxx that sell off-season clothes are doing better than retail stores and malls. However, the point is people are having to get creative in order to just maintain their previous levels of comfort, and the trend will only get worse. So U.S. rent statistics show an overall decrease in the last month for average rent. However, in major metro areas, due to lack of new building constructions because of material and construction costs, rents have gone up immensely. For example, in San Diego, where I went for my college degree, rents have increased on average $1,000 per month since 2019 for a 2 to 3 bedroom house, from paying pre-COVID-19 prices of $1,900 to now $2,900 per month. That's an increase of more than 100%. With high cost of living, stagnant wages, healthcare expenses, and the desire for a simpler life, making ends meet, and praying that no emergencies would ever befall upon us, people are starting to consider financial solutions like living overseas. What was the great immigration of the last century has started to turn into the great exodus from America starting now. As of 2023, the United States Census Bureau reports that there are 36.8 million people in poverty. Healthcare.gov states that low income salary for poverty level is $15,000 to $30,000 per year salary. That's about $1,500 to $2,500 per month. Numbeo cost of living figures for Los Angeles, which is where I'm from, is about $1,330 per month, plus rent of $2,000 outside of city center. And I'm not even considering commuting costs. And this makes living in Los Angeles cost about $3,330 per month, rent included. This is why people are struggling. This means most people would have to get a second job, like driving Uber, to make up for $3,300 minus $2,500 per month salary, which means they are short $800 per month just to make ends meet. And even when they do pay everything, they will have just managed to live paycheck to paycheck. This is why we see many family homes turn into multi-generational homes, because the next generation just doesn't have the money to live by themselves. Living together under one roof in crowded conditions is the only way to survive, while many others have to find roommates and rent out living rooms, kitchens, dining areas in order to make rent on the whole house. This was actually how I was able to live for free in college in San Diego as well. I lived in the dining area with a futon sofa bed and rented the 3 bedrooms so I could save on rent. Now let's move to the other side of the world. Bangkok, Thailand. World-class healthcare at very affordable prices. With a huge shortage of English teachers, for anyone who speaks English, this would be an easy job and solve the employment issue. Now, Thailand is one of the most expat-friendly countries, and Bangkok, capital in 2023, had over 25 million international visitors. And English is a major second language there. And because of this, many expats go there to teach English with average salaries of 30,000 to 45,000 baht per month, which is about 1,000 to 1,500 US dollars per month, which doesn't sound like a lot, but remember what I said. It's not about how much you make, but how much you can save. Also, the average salary in Bangkok is around $700 per month. So working as an English teacher in Bangkok means you're making around 2 to 3 times more than the local average salary. See, in relative terms, that means if you were making around poverty level of $2,500 per month salary in Los Angeles, you would be making around $5,000 to $7,500 USD and living the lifestyle making 3 times the average salary, but in Bangkok. This may be a bit exaggerated, but you can see why making more than an average salary and not having a second job can really improve the quality of life and your financial situation. But don't just take my word for it. Let's look at some stats. So again, let's look at Numbeo, cost of living for Bangkok, Thailand. Let's live in city center, but just remember that in LA, we picked outside of city center, which is about $500 cheaper. But in Bangkok, you can live city center, shopping malls, metros, clubs, restaurants, everything is there. And you have almost no commuting costs and saved a bunch of time from commuting, and time is money. So on Numbeo, living expenses is 23,000 baht, which is about 660 US dollars per month, plus living in a nice apartment in city center for $22,000 baht, which is about 650 US dollars per month. This means your average salary of 1,300 US dollars per month can cover your single lifestyle living in city center for $1,300 per month. Now, I know this doesn't sound amazing, but imagine this is you living comfortably and not taking on a second job to make ends meet. If you did what I did, taking on a second job would actually increase your earnings and savings exponentially compared to when you were just barely struggling with 2 jobs in Los Angeles. And just imagine if you were to even apply half the creativity you needed in LA to make ends meet, cooking at home, buying secondhand clothes, using old, used furnitures and appliances. Just imagine the savings. And not to mention the lifestyle and medical bills. The figures in the United States do not account for emergencies and medical bills that may arise, which we all know is outrageous. I used to be an ambulance driver in Greater Los Angeles, and we used to charge a minimum of 1,500 US dollars per ambulance ride. If you use the pillowcase, that's $100. Oxygen bottles to breathe, that's another $100 per PSI increment on the bottle gauge. And that was prices 20 years ago. This is why so many people, after visiting these lower cost of living countries, will seriously consider retiring in or moving to there. As the ancient Roman philosopher Epicurus said, "The greatest pleasures of life is being free from pain. Living a familiar life even when that life means having to endure constant, endless, dull pain of having to make ends meet, means you are living a life of pain and torture, the complete opposite of pleasure. These stressors can really add up over time, and I'm not a professional psychologist, but enduring this much pain and suffering can really affect people's mental health. But again, you don't have to get out of your current comfort zone, because I was there and I know the mentality I used to have. I know you're probably working very hard and trying to earn more in order to get out of your current situation. However, just remember there's always other ways. Moving abroad may not be for you, but knowing you have this option and even moving back to your ancestral country can sometimes give you the space to breathe and the mindset to know that when things are really getting out of your control, then at least you have another option in place. This is the foundation of financial resilience, controlling what you can control and having backup options. See, 15 years ago, I was not able to control my future in the US. My degree, my job opportunities were all not what I hoped for and what my family hoped for us. However, going back to my country in a good way gave me the perspective that I have today. That when an environment is not suitable for you and is causing you too much pain, consider controlling what you can. Our ancestors have done this many times. We can too. Even in the Bible, Abraham was promised by God and therefore he left in search for a better land where his offsprings can prosper. The Israelites left Egypt to escape slavery in the Exodus. During times of war, Vietnamese refugees left Vietnam and came to the US. Their eventual destinations and journey have changed the world and cultures of our world forever. Resilience and adaptability are key. Don't expect things to be easy, but know that the challenges can be a richer, fuller life. So here's how you can make a successful move if you're considering leaving the US. Step 1. Research your destination. This is the funnest part. Find out where you like to go. Focus on cost of living, safety, language, and local laws. The most important thing is to research and be conservative in your preparation. Whatever cost you find you will have, make sure you put an additional 10% to 20% margin as an emergency fund for unexpected events or costs that may arise. Now, history has shown us many failed expeditions when people just went ahead without careful planning, so make sure you do your due diligence and have plans in place. Many couples actually have businesses that help people move abroad more easily. Most of them live in these low-cost living countries and will usually provide many helpful tips and prevent you from making some less obvious mistakes. Now, step 2, plan your finances. Save an emergency funds, clear debts, and set a budget. And then step 3, you want to secure your employment or your income. You can consider remote work or a local job opportunity or even starting a small business. Now, step 4, you want to handle your logistics, including visas, residency permits, housing, and even healthcare. And then number 5, build a support network. Find online communities. You can use Reddit groups like America Exit or I Want Out, or even Facebook groups for locals that live where you want to live to help you answer questions and get a feel for things. And step 6, you can actually start saving more money by planning to sell your things like your car or appliances and just stopping subscriptions step by step. This will help you put more money back into your pocket. And here's a pro tip. If you can, hold off on canceling your cell phone. And instead, you can maybe ask your cell phone provider if they can provide you with Wi-Fi features so you can still pick up your phone even when you're overseas. This can really help with some bank issues when you need telephone verifications. Breaking the process into manageable steps makes it more achievable. Now, beyond just finance and money, there's a deeper layer to moving abroad. See, I remember the first time I came back to Taiwan, smelling the smells of the city, breathing in new tastes, flavors, and hopes and dreams. It's like when you play a video game, and when you've really messed it up badly, you press the reset button, and you can do it again. But this time, you have the experience from your last game that you failed in, and this time you know what not to do. And not many people get the chance to start over fresh, and even start designing your life correctly from the get-go. So just being able to know that I'm getting a fresh start really lifted up my spirits, and believe it or not, actually opens up doors. See, because you don't have any restrictions and preconceptions of how things are supposed to be in this new land. You sort of just have this ignorant, blissful courage to do whatever you feel like doing. And you're also less afraid to fail because you don't know anyone here. No one's your neighbor. No one knows you from middle school or high school. You have a clean slate. And you're also not going to stop yourself from doing something because you know people would limit your potential because they know that's not who you're supposed to be. So I know lots of guys who were in my situation that came back to Taiwan, girls as well. They started clubs, teeth whitening clinics, yoga fitness centers, yogurt ice cream stores, In-N-Out knockoffs. Many of them just went and did it. They went to the banks, asked for personal loans, asked friends for loans. They got through all the paperwork, all the red tape, even when they weren't fluent in the language. The social barriers were lifted. They no longer identified as ex-gangsters or losers or people who failed out of college or, like me, someone who couldn't get a job. Instead, we were free to do whatever we wanted in a land where no one knows us and what we shouldn't be capable of doing. But of course, it's not always a guarantee for everyone. Just like immigrating to the US, moving to another country, or even going back to your ancestral home can have downsides as well. And there have been people who have tried but have decided still to go back to America. So here are a couple of downsides and risks that you need to take into consideration. 1. Not everyone is happy with moving abroad. There have been people who could not assimilate it or just had too much culture shock that they eventually had to return to the States for their own mental and personal well-being. 2. While it is true that the cost of living is significantly lower, as stated above, the wages are also considerably lower as well. The overall agreement is that the quality of life does significantly improve, however. If and when you do plan on going back home, you will now be facing higher costs and living expenditures. If you're able to save and invest during your time abroad, then this should be okay. However, to expect the same level of comfort you experienced overseas and to want to have that again back in the US would be difficult. Number 3, don't expect to live like kings on pennies. That expectation is not the reality. However, even with a large cut in income and salary, the quality of life and time off is significantly better than the United States. Number 4, again, this video is for low income and poverty level earners. If you're above low income, meaning you make more than $50,000 up to $98,000 a year in the United States, you should technically be doing well as long as you have financial restraint and basic budgeting practices. And also, if you are in this bracket and you're able to take a minimal wage cut and go remote, then you will do extremely well abroad. So here's a summary of the key points we went over in this video. Leaving America isn't just for the wealthy, it's accessible to anyone who plans well. And throughout history, leaving unfavorable circumstances were often accomplished by commoners and those who were distressed and living in pain. And if you have distant relatives who live in an ancestral country, you can more easily reconnect with extended family members who can be both trusted and relied upon for assistance with the moving and getting used to your new life. Getting back to your country can also help you to reconnect with your cultural roots, find a lower cost of living, and enjoy a higher quality of life. Finally, remember that moving requires preparation, resilience, and the courage to take a step into the unknown. And most importantly, even if you don't decide to move, just knowing that you have this option is a great way to take pressure off your shoulders. You're not forced to be in whatever kind of difficult situation. We can all control our destiny and what we allow into our lives. Having the option to say, I can plan on leaving by doing these things will really help you put your current situation into perspective and not be affected by the things that you really have no control in your life. This will allow you to focus on the things you can control. And that's the trick to resilience. So hey, have you ever considered moving to a different country for a better life? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe if you want more stories, tips, and real life examples on how to achieve financial freedom wherever you are. And if you want to find out what to do before you hit rock bottom and to prevent someone you know from being homeless, you'll need to watch this video so you don't miss out on the one reason that's putting more Americans on the street than low income. Thank you for watching.